The United States is moving a major naval force towards the Middle East as tensions with Iran continue to rise. According to multiple reports, the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is being redeployed from the South China Sea into the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility. Reportedly, the move is expected to take about a week, and the shift comes amid escalating unrest inside Iran and growing questions about whether the Trump administration could use military force in response to the crisis. U.S. Central Command oversees a vast region, including the Middle East, Central and South Asia, and parts of Africa, covering 21 countries, among them Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The deployment signals a heightened U.S. military posture as the situation continues to develop. This comes as tensions in the Middle East increase, as 2 weeks of protests in Iran reportedly killed over 2,500 people, with Donald Trump and his administration threatening intervention in the Middle Eastern country. Now, of course, Iran is currently undergoing an internet blackout, and so information is very hard to get out of the country. However, what is certain is that the United Nations Security Council met today. Iran did signal dismay at the United States' actions and claimed interference and causing unrest. Joining us now is Professor Georgi Toleraya. He is a professor at the Russian Academy of Science in Moscow. Joining us live from the Russian capital itself. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Toleraya. This is a move where the United States now sending one of its largest aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln, towards the Middle East. This comes as, of course, Donald Trump threatens military action. However, the world is waiting to see if he will actually follow through on that. Given this development, do you think that it is certain that the United States will now move to threaten and act in Iran, or is this just strong posturing towards the country for leverage in diplomatic conversations?
Well, I think the military experts say that the U.S. currently don't have enough military power concentrated at the Persian Gulf and near Iran, close to Iran, to make any meaningful military action. And if they would decide to do so, they would probably need another week or so to reinforce their deployed forces and bring in more firepower and bring in more ships and other armament. So far it looks more like a sort of blackmail, not as a real preparation for an action. Of course, we must consider the Trump factor, but so far I don't see the danger of a direct military strike in the coming days. That's how I read the situation right now.
And Professor Toleraya, of course, the United States, their senior envoy, Steve Witkoff, has said that the United States prefers diplomacy over military action. Do you think there is any room for diplomatic negotiations there? Do you think Iran is going to come to the table? According to Donald Trump, they did reach out during the height of the protests. However, of course, over the past year with the Trump administration, there has been US strikes on Iranian soil where they destroyed their nuclear bases earlier in 2025 during Israel and Iran's 12-day war. So do you see diplomacy working in getting this situation de-escalated, particularly in now what is the United States' clear goal in eradicating the regime in Iran that's been in power since the 1979 revolution?
Well, this is the problem that, what would be the aim of diplomacy? The Iranians also said they prefer diplomacy to any show of force, but when you start some kind of diplomatic negotiation, you should bear in mind what kind of aim do you have, what kind of target you are aiming at. And if the aim is to overthrow and liquidate the Ayatollah regime, obviously there's very little room for the Iranian side to reciprocate. If there would be more modest aims, like some kind of non-violence against the protesters and some kind of reforms that would eliminate the threat of a military strike against Iran, then I think it could work, and I hope it will work. Although, of course, the current Iranian authorities are not very eager to give away any of their powers and to give any concessions to the protesters. However, while the diplomats speak, the guns are quiet. So maybe any kind of negotiation, any kind of diplomatic effort would be useful, just to postpone, just to save some time, and maybe the situation would become more quieter and the protests will be subdued, while the authorities would also consider some kind of reforms and some kind of economic measures which would eliminate the base for these protests.
Professor Toleraya, do stay with us as we move over to Europe for our next story. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine is not an obstacle to peace. He was pushing back against remarks made by US President Donald Trump. Trump told Reuters that he believes Ukraine is less ready than Russia to make a deal. He suggested Zelensky was holding up talks to end the nearly 4-year war. Zelensky says Russia continued missile and drone attacks show Moscow is not serious about peace. He added Ukraine will step up diplomatic efforts, including with the United States and NATO. And the Kremlin backed Trump's view, saying that President Vladimir Putin remains open to negotiations. Joining us once again is Professor Toleraya. Now, Ukraine have come forward with multiple peace plans backed by the United States and also, of course, put forward direct meetings between Russia and Ukrainian officials, some by going as far as saying that Vladimir Zelensky is open to meeting Vladimir Putin. Russia has, of course, turned these all down, and land, of course, remains the key issue here. If Russia truly wants peace, why is it still launching these missiles and drones at Ukrainian cities and power plants? And why does it continue to not budge or concede any terms when it comes to a meeting or territory or security guarantees? Professor Toleraya, please, what's your point of view?
Yes, well, I would say that it's not publicly said, but I got the feeling that for many months and even years, as you've mentioned, that we try to spare Ukrainian infrastructure, having a backstop that one day the Russia will have control over these territories, and we will have to reconstruct it again. So we spared our future expenses. I think now this hope is lost, so the attacks against infrastructure became more fierce in order to undermine the Ukrainian military potential and to make Ukrainian side to really do something, to do some steps towards peace. What Zelensky said in justification of himself, reacting to Trump's absolutely just and right words, I think this is just a sort of a false justification, because as I've said many times, Zelensky wants to continue war as long as possible, because the moment the war ends, he would lose his power and he will face very grave personal consequences. So he wants to continue the war till the last Ukrainian. and his justification doesn't work. But in fact, Russia and Putin said that many times. We never walked out of the talks, so we want to continue talks. We want to find a normal, acceptable solution, as a peace solution. Although if the suggestions which are given to us by Ukrainians are unacceptable, there's nothing to talk about. But we are prepared to try for peace as soon as possible.
What about these meetings, direct talks between the two parties? We've seen minor talks in Istanbul where small prisoner exchanges have occurred due to them. However, no high-level delegations have been present at these talks. When do you think it's time for Ukraine and Russia to sit at the table directly and discuss when peace can be achieved?
Mind that they're ready for some real talks, some substantive talks, and our positions, Russian position, is very well known. It's very detailed, and we should talk about these ideas, this position. Then the talks can succeed, and it can start anytime the Ukrainian side will be able to recognize the reality.
Professor Georgi Toleraya, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us. We now move on and over to East Asia, and China has said that it resolutely opposes a deal signed by Washington and Taipei to reduce tariffs on Taiwanese products and increase the self-ruled island's investment in the United States. China has claimed Taiwan as part of its own territory and has not ruled using force to bring it under its control. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Guo Jiakun, has responded. Let's take a listen into what he had to say.
中方一贯坚决反对建交国与中国台湾地区商签任何具有主权意涵和官方性质的协定。美方应当切实恪守一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报。
Joining us now is Major General A.K. Sawach. He is a geostrategic expert. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Of course, this deal was announced earlier today, a reduction in tariffs from Washington to Taipei. How might China be viewing this, and how does it impact the relations between Washington and Beijing, and of course the one China policy, which China stands so firmly by?
As far as one China policy concerned, though US recognize one China policy, but it always says that it will not allow China to forcefully annex Taiwan, which is a self-ruled island. Now, as far as this, investment treaty which has been signed, the tariff has been reduced considerably, and also US will invest in Taiwan, and due to which the trade will increase between both the countries, and Taiwan is very close to US. There is no denying the fact the US has deployed their troops there. They have given them the modern weapon and the latest weaponry, F-35, F-22 Raptors, and it has given the best of the air defense system, Patriot missile system, because they feel that China is becoming very, very bold, and the last time when they have carried out an exercise where they have surrounded the Taiwan, and this was about 7 days naval blockade exercise, and then they exercised as to how they can forcefully take Taiwan. Considering the situation which is prevailing in the whole world, the way so many wars are taking place, Russia-Ukraine war is not stopped, there are chances of US-Iran war again starting off, Israel-Hamas war, again there is only pause. So number of wars which are taking place. In this scenario, there is always a danger that China forcibly trying to take Taiwan. In any way, China never allows or never feel happy in case in any country which is signing any treatment with Taiwan, but that does not make a difference, because there are a number of countries which are having sort of informal treaties with Taiwan, including India. We are also doing trade with it, and so is the US. US is not going to budge on that, but it is just mentioned by the China. It is not going to any impact on US. But what is more important is that you have to take China seriously. The way China is preparing itself and guarding itself, and the way China is becoming bold day by day, the way China is crossing the international seas and coming and in Taiwan Strait and doing exercise which are offensive in nature, there are chances where the China can attack and forcibly annex it, and that is where is a cause of worry for US. It is a cause of worry for Japan. If you see the China, very recently Japanese Prime Minister has also said that in case if China forcibly try to take Taiwan, Japan can also militarily intervene. So the whole situation is in flux because what is happening, the China has a problem with majority of the countries in Indo-Pacific. It is not following the rule of the law. It want to annex maximum Indo-Pacific. One second thing is it has a problem with Japan in Senkaku Island. It want to forcibly annex Taiwan. It considered it a part of it. So therefore, the China does not follow the rule of the game. It does not follow the international forum, and that's why the code was formed, which has a basic tenet of freedom and navigation, freedom of navigation, rule-based international.
Major General Sawatch, apologies for the interruption. Of course, we saw this, which is significant. A separate trade deal with Taiwan has now seen tariffs decreased across the country, but more importantly, more Taiwanese investment inside the United States. Then, of course, previously to that, we saw an $11.1 billion arms sale to the self-governing island. We have a Donald Trump visit coming up in April, I believe. How is that going to affect those talks? How much is Taiwan expected to come up?
You know, that is a very, you can say, important question because the meeting is going to come in April and the US do not want to spoil their relation with China, and it does not want this, meeting to be cancelled. And they will not cross a situation, but certainly they will also take a care and they will also take the interest of Taiwan, because China, though is a self-ruled island, but it is very close to US, and US has in a very uncertain manner has conveyed time and again that it will not take a step back in case if China militarily try to take over Taiwan. So it is a catch-22 situation. They want to maintain good relation with China. There are talks which likely to take place in April, but at the same time they will also balance it out because they have reduced considerably the tariff on Taiwan. They want to invest also in Taiwan. They want to make sure that Taiwan is in a position to guard itself. It has best of the air defense system and best of the weapon system. But I surely agree that it is a very tricky situation wherein USA will ensure that everything goes fine, because the talks between US and China are very important in April and they want it to carry on. So they will not cross a limit. Okay. They will like to maintain a diplomatic relation, back channel diplomacy, where the things cool down, and this talk between US and China in April goes through it in a very professional manner.
Okay, do stay with us as we move on. We stay in the region for our next story. And Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has said the government is temporarily freezing all army and police procurement decisions linked to a corruption investigation. According to state media, any defence or police purchases connected to the probe will remain on hold until they fully meet all rules and regulations. The move follows allegations of bribery tied to military procurement projects, and Malaysia's Anti-Corruption Commission has carried out raids on several companies suspected of being involved in the scheme. Authorities have also frozen 6 bank accounts belonging to one suspect and their family members as part of the investigation. Earlier this month, a former army chief and 4 other individuals were detained in connection with the case. Local media later reported that the former army chief was released from custody on Monday. Prime Minister Anwar said the government, along with relevant ministries, will review and reorganise the entire procurement process to make it more transparent. He added that officials will closely examine any loopholes or weaknesses in the current system and restructure it to ensure full compliance and accountability going forward. Major General Sawatch joins us once again. This corruption situation inside Venezuela, do you think freezing the military and police procurement is the correct move going forward, or is this just damage control here?
Absolutely. I see the point is the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission has come to know that there has been some bribery which had taken place in the procurement procedure which has in Malaysia, especially the armaments which have been bought by the Malaysian Defence Forces and also the police equipment. That knowledge they have got it, and that's how they have detained the former army chief, and they have carried out some interrogation. But as on today, they have suspended all the procurement. They will like to go more into detail where the procurement procedure was violated. They will try to make the procedures now more stringent. And because the point is, if the corruption take place, which is a very common phenomena in the developing countries, that whichever is the major, you can say, armed deal, there are chances of corruption taking place until and unless you have a very foolproof procurement procedure where checks and balances are there. There are laid down SOPs. And the way it has been now realized in Malaysia, somewhere something is gone wrong, and that's why Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission has able to raid a number of companies where they thought they're involved in this corruption, also detained the former army chief. So the point is that this is a beginning. This is, you can say, tip in the iceberg. I'm sure the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission will go more in detail, and in case they find that there are certain bribery which is being taken place or irregularity which has been found in procurement of defense equipment and also the police equipment, they are going to scrap it off, and that's what the Prime Minister has shown. So there are three things which I stand very clearly. One is the Prime Minister Ibrahim is trying to show to the country that they will not tolerate any corruption, and in case if any corruption issue is come to the light, they will go all out. Second thing is, there is a chance of this corruption taking place. It means that there are lacunas in the procurement procedures which are being followed in Malaysia, and therefore there is a requirement of rehauling it and also revising these SOPs of procurement procedure in Malaysia, so that in future there are no irregularities take place, and this is a foolproof mechanism which is available in Malaysia.
Okay, Major General A.K. Sawatch, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Pleasure to have you. We now move on, and South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol will be jailed for 5 years over abuse of power, obstructing justice and falsifying documents in relation to his failed martial law bid in 2024. This is the first of the verdicts in 4 trials linked to his martial law decree. Prosecutors had sought a 10-year jail term for the charges in the ruling today. Now, both sides have 7 days to appeal. Although short-lived, the move triggered nationwide turmoil, sparking protests as MPs rushed to the National Assembly to overturn Yoon's decision. The most serious charge is insurrection, for which prosecutors have demanded the death penalty. The verdict in that trial is expected in February. Meanwhile, here's what Yoon's lawyer had to say on the sentencing.
오늘의 유죄 판결은 대통령의 헌법상 권한 행사와 형사 책임의 경계를 지나치게 단순화한 결정입니다. 이 논리가 그대로 유지된다면 향후 어떠한 대통령도 위기의 상황에서 결단을 내릴 수 없게 되며 통치행위는 언제든지 사후적으로 범죄로서 재구성하게 될 위험에 놓이게 됩니다.
Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.